welcome to the Ichigo Abroad podcast. My name is Lisa. I'm Saratoga Knitting on Instagram and on Ravelry, and my daughter Sophia is Ichigo Knitter on Instagram and on Ravelry. Today, I think this is episode 46 of the podcast, and today we are going to have the Knit Along winners. So let's get started. Well, welcome to the backyard. Once again, it's an overcast day today. This morning I think we're going to get some rain and some thunderstorms this afternoon, so I thought I would try to come out and do this out here today and see my father-in-law's lovely garden and my mother-in-law's kayak, which is right there. My husband and brother-in-law are actually transporting those kayaks down to the beach today, so they may show up or it may disappear as we go on through the different sections. It's just me today. Sophia is still in Saratoga. She's working her summer job, getting ready to earn some money to get to Japan. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. So today I'm going to start off with, I'm going to do the Knit Along winners. I'll do some finished objects because I actually have some. I'll do some works in progress and show you those, and show you some upcoming spinning. And then oh no, my papers went all over. And then we'll just do some chatter at the end. So let's get started. First off, we had the Knit Along winners. If you remember, when was it? A couple of months ago? A month and a half ago, I really wanted to knit socks, so I thought we would have a Let's Knit Socks Knit Along, and that has now ended. I spun the yarn for my pair of socks, which I was very happy and excited about, and they're all completed, and I'm looking forward to wearing those in the fall. They'll be nice and warm and cozy. And everybody did such great work on their socks. I was so excited. I think I've said this before. I just did it because I really wanted to knit some socks, and so I wanted some company along the way. But everybody knit some gorgeous socks. It was really great. It was really fun to see. And actually, hold on a second. Piece of paper I needed is the one that flew off into the nether regions here. Anyway, so we had 63 entries in the thread, which is really great. And so I already drew the random numbers. I used random.org, and I drew the numbers for that. Once I'm finished with the podcast, I actually will PM the winners so they can get in touch with me and send me their mailing address. If you recall, we have two prizes. The first prize is this beautiful bat of Funky Bunny bat from Ixchel, home of the Hop Couture. And this is Australian. It's beautiful. It's so many multicolors, and I'm really jealous, but it has Angora bunny in it, and I'm allergic to Angora bunny, so I can't spin it. So I thought I would put it up for a prize. I actually received it from my friend Elizabeth Streeter in my Fiber Share package this year, and she agreed that I could give it up I could put it in the podcast as a prize. And that prize goes actually to post number 60. And that is Holly, Lupinone's Jacob, which is fantastic, because actually when I first posted up that I had received this bat in my Fiber Share, she was just telling me I would so enjoy it. It was just going to be great, that the Funky Bunny bats are really terrific to spin. And then, since I couldn't do it, it's more than appropriate that Holly is actually the one who won this. So Holly, I'll be PMing you later today, and you can send me your new address. Out in the northwest of the United States, and I will get this out to you, and I'm so happy that you got it, and I'll be so looking forward to seeing what you come up with this. So that's prize number 1. That is awesome. Prize number 2 is a skein of handspun that I did. So this lovely green color. It's actually the Help colorway, and it's on the Bowie blend from Hip Strings on Etsy. It's gorgeous. This is so fun to spin up. It is Shetland BFL and Manx wool, I believe, and it really is just really nice and woolly and grippy. It was a joy to spin. So I'm thinking on this one, there are about, there's actually quite a bit of this. There is close to 400 yards of this, so you could make something kind of nice with it. You could make, you know, a cowl or a hat, and maybe a hat and a cowl, maybe a nice pair of warm mitts, something like this. This is really great. It's really pretty and squishy, and I think it's great. And this is going to go to post number 47, who is Stephanie, and her Ravelry name is Smunger78. So Stephanie, I'll be PMing you a little later today, and you can send me your mailing address, and I'll be happy to send this out to you. And I want to say congratulations to those winners. I'm so excited that we finally did this, and it was great to have all of the beautiful socks. The second giveaway that we had that I'm going to finalize today, and I already locked the thread this morning. That was for Tell Sophia What to Read, and we just asked people to kind of give Sophia some ideas for summer reading now that she's done with school. She's got some time again to read, so she was looking for some ideas, and we had some really great ones. Some that there was one, I think it was for the Air Affair, the Jasper Ford series, which is really great. And we actually, I've read most of those books, and I think Sophia actually read the first one, and when I had mentioned that to her, she's like, I totally forgot about those books. I really need to look at those again. Someone else had mentioned, of course, the Outlander series, which is a really great series, and she's thinking about doing that. Anyway, there were some really great recommendations in there, and so I did random.org again this morning and pulled the winner, and it is Damama 5. And I'm not sure, she doesn't have her first name, so I'm not sure what her name is, but I will go ahead and PM her today and let her know. She is actually the winner of the Schmancy Shawl by Fairy Little. So I'll be PMing Fairy Little and Marcia and have her gift Damama 5 the Schmancy pattern, and I'm sure that will be great. I'll be excited to see that when it gets knit up. And so those are all our knit along and our giveaway winners today. So now let's move on to some finished objects. Right, on to some finished objects, and I actually have quite a few to show you today. So it's a little cool. Oh, Sophia, I'm using your mug today. This is the Night Vale Community Radio mug with the Night Vale logo. I've mentioned Night Vale before. Ooh, glasses are fogging up a little. Welcome to Night Vale is a audio podcast, which is really, really quirky and fun, and it's all about this little crazy town called Night Vale. And you see Night Vale through the eyes of Cecil, who is the broadcaster on the local radio station. And it's just quirky and crazy and fun. And if you're interested in something a little bit, a little off kilter, it's not scary at all, but it's just kind of a little crazy, quirky kind of show, and it's really great. It's called Welcome to Night Vale, so you should test it out. Take a listen to it. Really enjoy it. But yeah, I'm borrowing some spot today with some coffee. So I have. Let's see. I have. Oh no, not again. Found the piece of paper that wandered off. It is a little bit windy as well today, just a little bit, not bad. So I actually have a few shawls that I finished this week. I'm so excited about that. The first one that I finished is called the Reyna, R-E-Y-N-A shawl, and you can find it on Ravelry. It is a free pattern. I'm just looking to see the right side of this, but this is simply gorgeous. I love the colors, and I love the pattern. The pattern is actually written specifically for that single skein of variegated yarn that you have, and you just aren't quite sure what to do with, and maybe you didn't want to make socks with it. This is a really great pattern. It has it just has some garter stitch ridges, and then it has some really simple increases and a little bit of a lace pattern here, which increases as you go down. I'm really happy with it. It's a perfect size, and it's just going to be very, very nice to wear. This actually, ironically, is yarn that Holly Dapp, that Holly, who owns Jacob, who just won the bat in our knit along. She actually gifted this yarn to Sophia in, I think they did a year-long ornament swap, if I remember correctly. And it was a secret swap. They didn't know who was going to be their upstream partner. So it turned out to be Holly, and it was great. And Holly actually gifted this yarn to Sophia, and I stole this from Sophia from her stash when she came home. She was happy to give it to me. She has some other yarn that she was interested in doing, and she's like, no, Mom, go ahead, take it. You'll make something really nice. And I am super glad. I'm super glad that Holly sent this to her. Super glad that this is the pattern I chose, and I really like it, and I highly recommend it. It's really great, and it's a nice little size, just to kind of add a compliment to a wardrobe. And then I actually had finished this before, and I think I showed it, but I hadn't blocked it. And so I'm really bad with that. I tend to finish things, and then I'll just throw them on the bed or in the closet, and then I'll kind of have a blocking party. Does anybody else do that? That's what I do. Anyway, this is On the Moors with Jane Eyre. This is a pattern by Busy Mama. This was a mystery knit along that she did. We were reading Jane Eyre and then also knitting this pattern, and it's gorgeous. It's so beautiful. It starts up here and then works down, and so there's just lots of stockinette stitch, and then she adds a few rows of some really interesting little just yarn overs, so you have a little bit of lace interest at the end. And the bind off on this was really interesting. I don't want to give anything away, but I just remember when I was doing the last few rows, I was like, this is brilliant, and I need to go back and use this some other time if I want to bind off. But it just makes such a nice, neat edge on it. So Tanya, I loved this. I love the edging on this. This was perfect. And as you can see, I was just using some Knit Picks yarn that I had left over, some Knit Picks palette, but I held it double. So that's why there's some variation in the color. I had a blue and a tan color, and when I ran out of those two, I just switched over and I used this kind of a darker blue and kind of a little mustardy yellow. But I really think it works out fine. The transition point was great. And again, this is going to be just a nice, warm, lovely shawl to throw over your shoulders or around your neck, and I highly recommend it. So this was, again, On the Moors with Jane Eyre by Busy Mama. Loved it. So it's so pretty. And then my third shawl that I finished, the third shawl that I finished. Marcia, this is a tough name on this one. This is my Schmancy shawl. Marcia had, Very Little had donated a copy to the podcast for a giveaway, and she also had gifted me a copy. And so I finished making it. I actually made the small size. It's a great pattern. It was really, once you get going, it's really fun to just keep, and it grows. It's easy, it grows bigger, it's easy to know. You can understand exactly where you're going with it. And I really enjoyed it. I used a skein of O loops that I, again, stole from Sophia because I already used my O loops yarn in this colorway, but I think it came out really, really nice. So I was originally going to make the super small size, or the extra small, and then once I got going, I was really enjoying the pattern, and I thought I would just make the regular small size, because I think this will be great to throw around a neck and just as a complement to an outfit again. And then it has an applied edging on it, and so I used another Knit Picks. I used another ball of Knit Picks because I have a lot of Knit Picks hanging around from the sweater. So I had some Knit Picks palette, which I thought it was great because this color really, really matched what was already in the colors in here. I think it's a great complement, and it worked out really well. It was really interesting to put that edging on, and then I have not blocked this yet, so that's why it looks a little crunchy. So this is the only one I haven't blocked yet, but I will. And I'm really excited about that, and I think it's a great pattern, so go check it out. And that's the Schmancy shawl by Marcia Ibuku, and she's Very Little on Instagram and on Ravelry. So I'm very, very pleased with that. Then the thing that I finished, I actually did quite a bit of spinning last weekend because it was really rainy and thunderstormy again. It was just wet outside, so I decided to do some spinning. And this is some mystery. I'm sure it's merino. It's extremely soft, but I had a bag of it in kind of in my stash, my fiber stash, and there's no tag or anything with the bag, so I don't even remember where I got it. Maybe I got it at Rhinebeck, but I don't remember, but it was just such a pretty color, and it's one of those things where you're kind of digging through and go, ooh, what's that pop of color? And I had been doing so much green lately, I thought I would switch over to, I know this is still a little bit of a green, but it's a bluey green. It's really pretty. You can see all those wonderful colors in it, and I really got great yardage on this. I think I got really good yardage. It's pretty. It's really a it's mostly a fingering weight yarn. So I'm very pleased with the yardage that I got on it. I think I got close to. Definitely got over 400 yards on it. So I'm very pleased with that. I think what I'm going to do with this, when I finish another project that I'm going to show you, this is going to become part of the new Talisman shawl by Helen Stewart. I did go ahead, I caved, I joined the Shawl Society. I really like Helen's aesthetic in making shawls. I like the way she writes her shawl patterns. I like the way they're laid out. So I went ahead and joined the Shawl Society, and I don't remember exactly, but I think we get a series of 7 shawls over the course of the time of the society, and I think, don't quote me, but I think maybe they come out once a month. Well, the first one just came out. It's called the Talisman shawl, and so this is going to be enough for the main body of the shawl. And then, as I said, I have all that Knit Picks palette left over, and I'm sure I can find something for the. It's one stitch for most of the body, and then there's more of a lace edging, and so I'll find a Knit Picks palette color from my stash that will complement this, and so that's what I'm planning to do with this. So that's what I've done. So those are all my finished objects. So we can move on to some works in progress. Okay, so now we're talking about some of my works in progress that I'm looking to do. I am still working on the Rescue Me Chin Boy and Show Me the Stars sock pattern by CC Allman, Java Pearl Designs. So I'm probably 3/4 of the way up the foot now on the second sock. So this is the second sock. So I'll be doing these for the Summer of Socks with the Bakery Bears. I'm loving this pattern. I got this yarn off of the swap table at the Fiber Tour, the Washington County Fiber Tour getaway that we did with Sarah Pomegranate, and this was a skein of yarn that I picked up off of the swap table, and I just think it's really great. I love the colors on this, and I really love the way it's really showing the pattern, and it's popping really well, so I'm pretty excited about this. So I've been working away on those, and then I also have been working on a test knit pattern for Sarah from the Nitty, Nerdy, and Natural podcast. She has designed a shawl. It has two different patterns to it. One is kind of a asymmetric, and then one is symmetric, the way the pattern works out. And so she asked for test knitters, and I said I would love to do it. And I'm doing the symmetric pattern, and I'm really liking it quite a bit. I'm using a skein of my own hand spun. So this has to be, I don't remember what this is. I'm trying to remember what this was. Anyway, it's very soft. It must have alpaca in it somehow, because it's very fluffy, but it's a skein of hand spun that I've kind of had hanging around for a while, not quite sure what to do with it. And then what I have added to it is, again, I'm pretty sure that this is alpaca, but again, this is lovely yarn that I got off of the swap table, again at the Fiber Tour. Beautiful, super soft yarn, and I knew that I wanted to, once I got this and brought it home and was looking through what I wanted to pair it with, and I thought these two colors went really well together. I was thinking of maybe doing some type of a stripy pattern. I wasn't sure, I hadn't made a decision, and then when Sarah had asked me if I wanted to test knit for her, I thought this would be the perfect pattern for it. It's called the Impasto shawl. You know, I have technical difficulties. I really need something here with me. I don't know, every time. Anyway, I think I was saying that it's really interesting intellectually to read a pattern when you're a test knitter, and you can actually kind of see how the designer's brain has worked or is working, because they've already knit it when they sit down to write up the pattern. and you can see the shortcuts that their brain has taken. And some of those shortcuts are fine, but you know, when you're doing a pattern, obviously I'm not sure what, I don't know what Sarah's plans are, whether this is going to be a pay-for pattern or whether it's going to be a free pattern. It should be a pay-for pattern. It's really beautiful, and she's done a lot of work for it, and it's really interesting to knit as well. But when you have a pattern that's interesting to knit, you really have to be very, very clear in your instructions. And it's perfectly fine as an experienced knitter. I understood exactly where she was going, but I did have some suggestions, and in actually writing it out and the pacing of it and how you kind of do things, even just simple things like, you know, you have some things that are implied as far as either putting a marker or slipping a marker. And, you know, for someone who's doing it for the first time, maybe has never knit a shawl, you really need to actually, like, you got to spell it out. And it's a hard thing to do when you're an experienced knitter. I'm sure it's difficult for every designer. I'm not a designer of knitting projects, but I'm sure it's a difficult thing to do, because you literally have to kind of step back and say, look at it as if you were completely, maybe not completely new to knitting, but you know, new to this pattern, new to maybe a concept, or new to a stitch or a combination of stitches, or new to kind of how the flow of the pattern, works, and really kind of get down to the bare bones. So I really have a lot of respect for knitting designers to do this. I don't have the patience for it at this point in time, maybe someday, but certainly not at this point in time. I'm more than happy to just knit up these beautiful patterns that are out there. But it's really fun to test knit in this particular case. For me, it's a beautiful pattern, and I'm really enjoying it. And I've kind of been really focusing on this pattern alone. And I like the pattern, and the yarn is just so soft to use. I don't use an alpaca. It's such a soft, beautiful yarn, and it just kind of flows through your fingers. Anyway, all is good about this, but I really enjoy it. As I said, I have a ton of stitch markers, and that's really just because it's a 14 stitch repeat, and I just don't want to lose myself in those 14 stitches. But it's great. It's great TV knitting. So anyway, I'm very, very pleased with this. I really like the way the stripes are working out. I think it's going to be beautiful, and I think it's going to be great when it's blocked out. So again, and I'll let you know when she finally finishes this, and whether it's a pay-for pattern or a free pattern, and when it goes up on Ravelry, because I will highly recommend it. I think it's really great, and I am totally, totally enjoying it. And then what's up next on my wheel? I still have that beautiful box of little Nunoko bats that I got as won as a prize on Instagram last year, and you know, it's just, I'm slowly working through them. And what I did is that I have two little mini bats. So here's the first one. It's this beautiful, so soft, beautiful, just a cream color. And then this is a second one, which is this beautiful shades of green. I know, green once again, but this is really cool. So beautiful shades. Now, if I had a drum carder, which I don't, I could take these and card them together, but I don't have a drum carder. So basically what I'm doing is just kind of like ripping off one piece of each and combining them together, and then kind of pre-drafting them, and so they turn out like this, which is really cool. So I'm going to spin all of these little batlings, little bird's nests up, and I think that's going to be really interesting color. I think it's great. I've already done 3 of them, and you can see how different when you look at these two and then this. It really, when you pull out, you pre-draft this green color, it really kind of, well, I haven't gotten to the dark side yet, but it tends to soften up and lighten up the color. So I actually think this will be really cool. I'm going to start spinning it now, because I'm spinning it, I'm pulling it from the lighter side. This is kind of a gradient, so I'm going to continue to do this, and so the yarn should gradiate like that. The green part of it should be lighter and darker and darker and darker as I go. So I think that will be really interesting. I'll probably I might just leave those as a singles and do something kind of cool with that, or I'll see how, if I get, I probably just have enough to really do a skein of singles, and we'll see how that turns out. But that's kind of my project that I'm going to be throwing on the wheel next. And those are really all my works in progress for right now. So now let's move on to the next section, which basically will be some chatter. Okay, so let's just move on to some chatter. I'm just going to kind of talk about a couple of different ideas that I've been having. Sophia actually found out, I can't remember how much we knew the last time we podcast, but Sophia found out that she is going to the Saga, S-A-G-A, prefecture in southern Japan, and she is over the moon. It's just where she wanted to be. It's an ocean town, so she's going to have a beach there. It's a small town. She actually is going to be teaching English. Her main school is going to be a junior high or a middle school, and then she will also have 3 different elementary schools that she will go to. I think she alternates on Fridays. So that's so exciting. She's so excited to have found that out. It's the perfect place for her. She really loved Okinawa when she went to Okinawa, and Okinawa is the southernmost island of Japan, of course, and this is just the next one up from there, so she can go back to Okinawa anytime she wants now. And she also will be very close to Nagasaki. And she went to Hiroshima last year. I mean, she was there as a junior and just really enjoyed the trip there, and so she's looking forward to going to Nagasaki because, you know, she's really super interested in World War II and World War II as it pertains to Japan, and, you know, she really is really interested in all of that, so she's just going to be having a great time, I'm sure. She has already talked to her predecessor, so she knows what her apartment is going to be, where it's going to be. She'll have this girl's apartment, and they're actually very similar. They kind of like a lot of the same things, and she's a knitter. This girl is a knitter. Can you believe it? We could not believe it. So she's looking forward to that, and apparently the apartment below her, there is another student or individual on the JET program as well. I don't think he goes to the same schools as she does, but that's great. So she'll have someone right there. And from all indications, her county board is really very involved in the JET students, the JET people, I should say. They're not students; they're teachers. But the JET participants, and so they're really friendly. They get them involved in things. So I think that's perfect for her. She's just going to have a great time. She put up on Facebook the other day a YouTube video about Saga the Saga Prefecture, and I will put a link to that along with a podcast when I put it up on Ravelry. So if you're interested in it, you can go and take a look. It's about a 6-minute video. And it just takes you right through everything about Saga Prefecture, and it's really great. It's fast. They show a lot of things at the beginning, the first 3 minutes of it, and then the second 3 minutes of the video kind of goes back for each of those things that they were showing you fast, and gives you a little bit more in-depth information about each of those things. A lot of seafood. They do a lot of pottery in that area, and they make sake in that area. So yeah, she's just going to have a great time, and I was really excited to be able to see that video. So I'll add that along to it. Another thing that I wanted to kind of highlight today, I think it's actually really kind of interesting. I think today, it's Saturday today. Is it Worldwide Knit in Public Day today? It's June 11th. I think actually it is. Does this count? I'm not knitting, but I'm talking in public. I don't have any plans today other than family plans, but I think I'm going to say it counts. Anyway, if you're not familiar with the Tiny Paper Foxes podcast, it's now called the Handmade and Woolen podcast, and it's run by Jenny and her husband, Devin, and they were originally from Brooklyn, lived in Brooklyn, and they have just recently moved to southern Vermont, like literally just a few weeks ago moved to southern Vermont. So they are in a really big transition period, going from Brooklyn and everything that goes along with New York City to southern Vermont, out in the middle of nowhere, among all the farms. They're beautiful, but very, very, very different. I told Sophia, Jenny had mentioned in the last podcast that they're about an hour from Burlington, and they had driven up to see Burlington, and everyone was like, oh, you have to go to Burlington, it's a great city. And for them, it was very funny because they're like, Burlington is great, but Burlington is only, I don't know, maybe 25,000, 30,000 people. It's very similar to Saratoga in size, and it's not New York City. It's really cool. It's really funky. It's really crunchy. It's just, it's everything that you think Vermont is. has lots of great restaurants, but it's not New York City. So I think that they are in the process of kind of getting their minds used to the fact that they're living out in the country now, and that they're that that even though their vistas have expanded and they're in nature and they live near farms and their sheep and their alpacas and they just have all these opportunities. I think I was just saying that Jenny and Devin are really trying to get used to the idea of living in Vermont, which is very, very different, obviously, from living in a big city like New York City. And they were based in Brooklyn. So really their community has changed completely. So when they had, they saw probably hundreds of people every day on their commutes and just in the city and doing things. They were very comfortable with where they shopped. The local knitting store that they went to, they had a knitting group that they went to regularly. I think that they were pretty comfortable as far as people were concerned or community was concerned in New York and in that environment. And then to move to Vermont, in kind of rural Vermont, I think, is very, very different. You just don't see that many people unless you live in Burlington. And they're kind of few and far between, and you can see the farms and you can see the animals, but how do you get close to them? I think there's lots of questions of that. What are some fiber sources that you can find in your community? Where's a good place to put together a knitting group? How do you kind of put yourself out there to become part of your new community? And that's difficult for everyone, no matter where they're moving from or to. I'm lucky in that I've moved here to Marblehead. We used to live in Marblehead. We have friends that still live here. I do need to kind of connect more with knitters in town, but I'll get to that. But anyway, because they've been thinking about this and they're really trying to figure out a way to incorporate community back into their lives, what they've decided to do, or Jenny has decided to do, is she kind of put up a community along in their Ravelry group, and it's really an interesting concept. And so basically, it's 6 months, so it's running from June until December, I think, if I remember correctly. And really, basically, what she's asking you to do, if you'd like, is to kind of think about your community, as far as the fiber or knitting community is a crafting community is concerned, and maybe see if you can step outside your box a little bit, which is really great. I'm a pretty friendly person. I'm comfortable doing this. I'm pretty comfortable going to fiber festivals. I really like going there. Sophia and I had a great time going to Rhinebeck last year. I'm pretty comfortable just kind of talking to people. And really, when you talk to people about your knitting or really any crafting that you have, you kind of create this instant bond. But for many people, that's really not easy, or they don't really know where to start. And so kind of what Jenny is saying is to kind of think about, what's outside your box, what's outside of your comfort zone, and maybe try something like that. So, for example, if you have never, you enjoy podcasts, make a podcast, start a blog. If you haven't been part of a knitting group in your community, then see if there's one that you can join, or talk to people at your local knit shop. Go to a fiber festival and actually talk to people and really, just enjoy your time there. Don't be shy, which is difficult for a lot of people, really is difficult for people to do. And so, she's asking you to kind of make a decision as to kind of put out there what you think you're going to do, and what are you going to do to kind of increase your community. And for me, I'm thinking about going up to Fiber Trek. Sarah from the Fiber Trek podcast, she has a getaway weekend in October. It's actually the same weekend as Rhinebeck, so I'm actually thinking about going to that this year. Now, I usually go to fiber tours and fiber festivals with my sister-in-law, Tracy, and we are talking about this. I'm not sure if she's going to commit to going to it or not. A lot of times, her daughter, Kate, who's my niece, who's also a knitter, comes up from Baltimore, lives in Baltimore, so she can come up to Rhinebeck fairly easily and they usually go to Rhinebeck together. So she may really want to go to Rhinebeck and not make the trek way up to Maine, and that's great. That's perfectly fine. But I think I'm going to really try to commit to doing that, because it's something different for me. And certainly if I went by myself, that's different for me. So I would be with a completely new group of people, except for Sarah. But again, I haven't ever met Sarah in person. I've only met her over Instagram and through her podcast and chatted online and things like that. And that's, meeting people in real life is very different than just chatting online. But, so that's something to go by myself is something different, because like I said, I've always gone with my sister-in-law Tracy. We're kind of like knitting traveling buddies, and that's not to say that she isn't going to come. We'll be talking about that more, but that's one thing I can certainly do more by myself. And the second thing that I thought that I would do, and I already kind of talked informally with one person, is kind of maybe do kind of a meetup here in Marblehead. I know that there are a lot of knitters. I already had a contact from one lady who I think she said she lives on the Haunt, which is an island not far from here at all. But there are knitters in Salem. There are some knitters that I knew before, so I'm thinking that maybe I might kind of put that out there as a let's get together if anybody would like to get together in Marblehead and just see how it goes. So I'm thinking about doing that. So those are really kind of my two things of trying to increase my kind of my community, my one-to-one community. So we'll see how it goes. But if you're interested in doing that, go over to their podcast group. It's, like I said, it was called the Tiny Paper Foxes, and now they've changed it to Hand Knit and Woolen. And it's Jenny and Devin, and they are they're two great knitters, and Devin is into fiber and spinning, and he does beautiful work, and they're just seem like really interesting people. And I'm looking forward at some point to actually meeting them in person. I think that would be really wonderful. I remember seeing them at Rhinebeck last year in the distance, but I didn't have a chance to say hi to them, but we will eventually. So that's really kind of something to look forward to as well. But if you're interested in thinking about getting yourself out there more in the community, then go for it. Certainly going to fiber festivals is great. The fiber tour weekend that we did, I've talked about it a lot. I won't spend a lot of time on it again, but I really have met some really good people there. Sarah Pomegranate is wonderful. She's just a friendly, wonderful, enabling person. Cares about her craft so much. I met Pause for Stitches, and Candy. She's actually doing a new podcast, so that's something really new for her. I'm enjoying that. She was a great person to talk to. I really enjoyed. I think I'm really looking forward to becoming even better friends with her. She was just a great person, and I think we really clicked when we were there. I wish I'd spent more time with her. We didn't really talk that much, Candy, at the retreat. So next year. And I had talked a lot with Fernanda, who I had met before. She's just a lovely person as well, and just sharing that whole experience with my sister-in-law Tracy was very special. So I really recommend going to fiber festivals if you can. They're just such a great opportunity and places to meet and talk to people. So that's one thing. The second thing, again, mentioning Sarah Pomegranate from the Yarns at Yin Hu. So Sarah has this read-along discussion going on over on her podcast group, and I'm really finding it very, very interesting. A lot of the concepts there, the things that people are talking about are really interesting, so it's really great. I think I was saying that I'm reading the book Cod because Marblehead really had a big cod industry many, many years ago, and I'm not sure. If you can see, not sure if it's really gonna come out at all, but anyway, right up, just right up here over those two windows, that's the library back there, but it has it has a weather vane on the top, and on the top of that is a cod. So the cod the cod symbol is all over Marblehead. So it's really interesting reading the book, because I'm reading all about the fishery, the cod fishery, and how it affected Marblehead, and the long history of it. So that's really super interesting. Another thing that that people have been doing is kind of either like maybe watching a movie about food. A lot of people are watching Food Inc. for the first time, and one of the ones that I recommended, and other people have recommended as well, is a series that is on Netflix. I think it's a Netflix original. In fact, I know it is, and it's called Chef's Table, and there are 2 seasons out now, and I really highly recommend it. It's really interesting. They focus on, I think, about 6 different chefs for each of the seasons. And it's an hour and a half about that particular chef, and they're all kind of not necessarily young, but kind of up and coming chefs. They are either have Michelin stars, or they are in those 50 best restaurants in the world list. So they're all very, very interesting ideas, or interesting people. You won't like all of them. I think some of these people, they there may be a reason that they're a chef. It's just they're just tough kind of personalities, and they're really focused on what it is that they do, which is not a bad thing. I'm sure they make some incredible food. But I was watching it, and while I was spinning last week, I was kind of binge watching it because it was a rainy day. So I probably watched 3 or 4 episodes of season 2, and I really, really enjoyed it. But I was also thinking about how, not necessarily about the food, but about the process of being a chef. Now, I am not a cook. I do not like to. I like to bake. I'm not a big cook at all. It makes me really nervous trying to get everything to the table together. So that's not the best thing. But I was just kind of thinking about, there's the argument between being, not argument, but just the realization as to whether maybe you're a process knitter or a product knitter. So if you're a product knitter, you really are knitting. You don't really care. You care about the knitting, but the real bang is to get that sweater or get that piece of item off so you can use it or gift it or do something with it, but you really want the finished product. And then for other knitters, it's all about the process. It's about the feel of the yarn, it's about the knitting, it's about learning a new technique maybe, it's about the yarns you choose. And for me, I am much more of a process knitter. I literally, when I finish something, I usually will use it. Certainly if it's a sweater, I'm going to use it, but that's not the be all and end all for me. Literally, if I finish something and it comes off the needles and something happened to that piece, if it got felted, something happened to it, it really wouldn't bother me. I love the things that I do, and I love the pieces, and I'm very proud of the pieces that I make, but for me, the joy of it is the actual knitting. It's watching the colors change. It's actually reading the pattern and figuring out the pattern and solving a problem in the pattern, etc., kind of thing. So for me, that's really what it's all about. And in a certain sense, that must be what it's about for these chefs as well, because their product is a beautiful dinner that they present to to their clients, to the customers of the restaurant. But people eat it; it's gone, never to be seen again. They make the same, meals over and over again, but a little bit different every time, I'm sure. Someone, they end up having other chefs make those meals once they've figured out the design of those meals, and people eat it, and it's gone. And then the joy for the person eating, of course, has been the pleasure and the excitement about eating this wonderful, wonderful meal. But for the chef, their work is done. It's done in the kitchen. It's done in the design of the dish. It's done in thinking about the ingredients of the dish. It's done in thinking about how those flavors are going to meld together. How it's going to be presented on the plate. So it just was kind of, because I was spinning at the same time, it was just kind of like an interesting way of thinking about what they're doing. And the other thing that I also noticed watching this show is the focus that they had on the hands of the chef. And you watch any of these shows, I think it's very interesting. Chefs, when they are cooking, when they're making a plate, they seem to get very close to the food. So their workspace is here, and their face is right down in the food. And it's a lot different than when I cook. Don't have my face in the food, but they're very intense. It's intense. The level of cooking that they're doing, they're just very intense. They're focused completely on this particular dish that they're making. And if you notice, they get very, very close. Their face is very, very close to to it. And the other thing that they focus on a lot, of course, are the way their hands look. And that's always interesting to me too. I even remember thinking, I used to watch, Jacques Pepin, and they would always focus on his hands, and I would always it was very interesting looking at his hands as he did what he did. But these chefs, they're they don't have fancy nail polish on. They're very utilitarian hands because they use them. They wash them all the time. They are the tools of the trade, are their hands. Now, a lot of what a chef does is in his or her mind, they're thinking up all things, but when they actually put it together, they're using their hands, which is what we do as knitters. And so I was watching the show on the TV, and then I would turn and watch myself spin. And it was very interesting because I was able to, I'm enough of an experienced spinner, so I didn't have to think about it. I could actually kind of stop and spin and think about watching what my hands looked like, what they were doing, how they were holding the fiber, how they were making the yarn, the fiber go through the spinning wheel, how I would stop the wheel and move it on the on the hooks. And it was just really interesting, and I find that fascinating. My hands are very different than Sophia's hands. Sophia has her grandfather's hands. She has very, very long fingers, like her grandfather, Lessard, and she would be, if she played the piano, she would be a fantastic piano player because she has very, very long fingers. I have very short fingers. My hands are very different than Sophia's. But my hands, when I was watching myself spin, and then I stopped and I was actually doing the same thing, knitting, and watching myself knit, and my hands reminded me of my grandmother's hands because I used to watch her knit. And I thought that was really interesting because I have, in my mind, my hands are very similar to my grandmother's hands. I can see them looking like her hands as I grow older. And it's just the fact that, I think we underappreciate that. So it's just kind of an interesting concept. I'm going from place to place to place. But I think that we don't really think about that, and we don't think about what, we're thinking about the project, we're thinking about the yarn, we're thinking about that. But, take some time, if you have a chance, and just kind of watch what you're doing with your hands. Or if you know someone that knits, watch them knit, watch what their hands are doing. Because it's really fascinating how, the thought from your brain is actually, goes into what your hands are doing with the yarn or with the fiber. And I just thought that was a really interesting concept, and it's something I don't think we think about or do, because really our hands are our instruments for the creation and the creativity that we have, not only making food, but making sewing, making beautiful knitting projects, making beautiful yarn through spinning. Really, any crafting, you're using your hands, and it's just such an interesting idea. So just kind of throwing that out there for you to think about. What do you think? Does anybody else ever do that, or am I crazy? Do you ever think about looking at your hands, or watching what your hands are doing, or watching the hands of someone else, and while they do something specific or do something creative? So just some thoughts today. Anyway, so I think that will be it today. As I said, I'm going to add the link to the video that Sophia had put up about the Saga Prefectures, because it's kind of cool if you want to look at that, and that'll be in our Ravelry group. I'm going to notify the winners today when I finish podcasting. So get in touch with me, and I will send out those prizes for you. And again, thank you for everyone for participating in the Let's Knit Socks knit along. I really had a great time with that. And Sophia and I will probably come up with something else before the end of the summer, before she goes away to Japan, which will be coming sooner than she realizes. So exciting, so exciting. So anyway, until the next time, remember, it's just knitting. Bye.